But as my dad always tells people, because he was an educator, but he says, when you go away to school and you come home, that piece of paper means nothing.
Yeah.
It depends on how you use it. You come back and you want to help your people, help them. Don't come back with an attitude of, as he says, being an educated Indian.
Utilize it to better us.
Use it to help us. And that's where I think my mindset is. I'm here to help as best as I can. Am I right or wrong in a lot of situations? I don't know. We'll see as it goes along. But for me, it's important enough for me to say, I need to advocate. I need to be the one speaking up about it, because if not, nobody else is going to do it. I mean, just the truth of the matter is, in a lot of these meetings and a lot of these conferences, I'm the lone brown person in the room. Me
too sometimes, dude. Me too. Please help us welcome LeRoy Shingoitewa to the face.
Warning, explicit content. This material may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
Some elbow grease, cause you know nothing that you get in this life comes free. You gotta work all day. Gotta pay these bills and time.
Hello, miners. Hello, podcast listeners. Welcome into Mining Minds. Welcome into the annual meeting for the American Exploration and Mining Association 2025. We get to sit down with my man, Dino Brunson.
Yo.
And hang out with the man of the hour. I'm going to try to do this as best I can. LeRoy Shingoitewa. Is it close?
Yeah,
Dude,
close.
Close. That was really good.
You had it earlier, and you just right at the end. But yeah,
Performance anxiety.
yeah. My name's LeRoy Shingoitewa. So Shingoitewa.
LeRoy, if you want to pull that mic a little bit closer.
Okay, no problem.
There we go.
There you go.
And how about that?
Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
All right, perfect.
So walk us through this a little bit. Who are you with, first of all? Because I didn't catch that. You said WestLand.
Yeah. So WestLand, we're a
subsidiary?
Subsidiary of Trinity, and we're consultants. So for WestLand, we actually do environmental, we do engineering, and then cultural resource. So that's kind of the department that I'm under, is cultural resource.
We haven't dove into this on the podcast yet, so it's going to get cool.
I'm excited.
And keep in mind, we might ask some really off-the-wall questions, but it's only because we want to know for ourselves.
Yeah, no, totally.
But before we get there, maybe walk us through Little LeRoy. Where were you born, raised?
Yeah, so I'm from it's called Moenkopi, Arizona. It's northern Arizona, up on the Hopi reservation. So I was raised up there, lived up there pretty much my whole life. And then as I decided to go, I actually went to University of Arizona down in Tucson. Didn't finish. Did like 5 years of college and tons of...
You finished.
Tons of stuff, but never got my degree. Ended up working in gaming for 14 years. So my last job, I was a blackjack dealer. So,
okay.
Good
with numbers.
So coming into, mining, it's a whole another world that I kind of just fell into. And so what I did was actually, once I was done, I had a grandmother who got sick, went back home, took care of my grandmother for a couple of years. And when she passed away, I said, hey, I'm going to go finish my degree. So went back down to U of A and got my degree in biology, biomedical. So my path was going to be genetics. I was actually going to genetic counseling. And I started working for my tribe, did wildlife, and I was an eagle biologist for a second there.
That's why you carried the little eagle.
Yeah, and that's why my eagle's sitting here. But so did that. The grant that I was under ran out. I decided, one of the cultural resource people who work for the tribe said, hey, there's this training for a tribal monitor. Do you want to go do it? I was like, sure. So I went to this training. It was sponsored by Resolution Copper. It was under their consultation that they did with the tribes. They wanted to actually have tribal people help with the baseline studies. So I got hired on, and I went in, and I told, I heard something about a supervisor, and I was like, how do I do that? I'm too old to just be the Indian, I guess you can say that. I actually want to be in charge, so how do I do that? And with my experience of what I've done prior to, and kind of, I guess, knowledge that I grew up with our traditions, I was able to help now run a program where we actually do use tribal monitors on these baseline studies.
So I want to step back because I think you're trying to get out of here early on me. I want to step back and maybe walk through what it was like growing up on the reservation.
Well, for me, I think, each experience is different as far as which tribe you're from. And every tribe, 312 odd tribes in the nation that are recognized, each story is different. Everybody has a difference. And for Hopi specifically, our oldest village was established, that's actually still continuous, that's still, living right now, is 1100.
Wow.
So we've been in the same location for at least, good 1,000 years.
That is cool.
And so the world grew up around us. When it came time to reservations, we were one of the tribes that never got moved. They just drew a circle around us and said, you guys stay there. And we're like, okay, sounds good. So our longevity...
Was it that easy?
Yeah, we were lucky, yeah. But also nobody wanted to live there. Where we live, it's very extreme in the sense of environment. We're considered high desert, kind of like here. But we rely on what water we do get for farming. We have villages that don't have running water, electricity by choice. So we still kind of live in an older way where I'm from. So growing up, I didn't know everybody didn't grow up like that. And then also being on the reservation, we're 10 years behind. So I'm 47. I grew up with 8 tracks. I grew up with records.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up with
What was your favorite 8-track?
So my dad had this 8-track for Urban Cowboy.
Yeah.
And I would jam out to Urban Cowboy, and I had the whole 8-track / record player, and there was this record. It was called Disco Duck, and the people who are older will always remember Rick D's Disco Duck. It had a cartoon duck with a disco, so I thought that's kids music. So I would be jamming out to "Oh What a Night" late December back in '63, and I'm not. I wouldn't even know, but I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be knowing this music. But growing up, that's where we kind of lived in the past. And my grandmother's house still doesn't have running water or electricity. So we hauled water. We live like that.
And you said by choice.
Yeah.
And why the choice?
I think we have old teachings that say, especially where we're at, we live on mesas. So we're up on rock. And they said once you disturb rock, it deteriorates. We all know that. Once you break rock, it's never going to be put back together again. And so by digging, by doing all these things, you disturb your base. And they said if we start disturbing it, it's going to deteriorate and our houses will fall. Things will happen. And we've seen instances of that in some of the villages where they were trying to put in running water and it busted the rock. Wow. And so we believe we have traditional stuff that are important to us. So they say where our villages are centered, we have these plaza areas that are sacred to us, kivas and stuff. And we were told, my grandmother said, if you want to live down here, this is how you have to live. This is what we chose. This is what was chosen for us to be like. If you want the modern conveniences, move away. It's fine. We can put that in there. But she said, once you get lights, once you get plumbing, you become a slave to that forever. You will never not have to pay for it ever in your life again. And she said, we have running water. We have the sun. Why do I need to have lights for? So they've consciously made that decision of like, this is how we want to live. It's maybe an older way of how it is. And she used to say, maybe people look at us and say, oh, look at those poor people. But I built my house by ourselves. I don't owe anybody anything, so I think I'm pretty rich.
I love so glad we're talking about this because we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
At what point did we start thinking that charging each other for things like a house or water or lights was a good thing?
Yeah.
Well, I love how connected you guys are, and what you're saying. It's something I think we've gotten away from. Actually, have a conversation with my kids about it. Like, hey, man. There's a lot of respect that goes into what you're doing. It's done with an intent and it's done with a purpose. So it's cool to hear that your grandmother specifically, you specifically, are still sticking to some of those quote unquote older traditions.
And the thing is, we have to move on. That's, and that's my argument about culture is people tend to look into the past and say that was better. But when you ask those people, they go, no, that was hard.
Sure.
Like when you think about mining, think about the world that we used to live in. Our grandparents were 100% tougher than we were ever.
100%.
You know, we're the weak people now. We don't know how to do half of the stuff they knew how to do to survive. And they did it with, 13 kids,
Yeah.
It's a different mindset. And I think everybody has what they're calling traditional ecological knowledge. We all grew up with recipes from our grandparents. We grew up with knowledge on how to look for mineral. You visually go, if you look at this is what's here. So a lot of those teachings everybody grew up with. And that's what, as far as my program is concerned, we're using that knowledge to work alongside, Western knowledge, whether it be science, whether it be geology, any of these things. We kind of put two different perspectives. And at first when we were doing this, a lot of people were against us because they said, why are you bringing in this outside information? Why are you bringing in these people who really don't have a stake in this mine? But when you think about it, they should have the most stake because they were the ones originally here. They've been in this area. And unfortunately, with the mining law and the way it is, and with generations of mining, 100 years ago, they were never consulted on anything. They just came in, did what they need to do. And unfortunately, mining inherited the past too.
Yeah.
So you have still legacy mines that have never been cleaned up. You still have, like where I'm from, we still have uranium still just sitting out there. We have a tailings that they've never been cleaned. And it's like, we're still getting affected by this. So I know mining's getting better, but in our backyard, it hasn't yet. Yeah. And so this is why I do what I do, is like, there has to be a bridge in what we're learning, what we already know. There's a lot of, old knowledge that can be introduced and used in the new world of what we live in. So.
Well, it sounds like your grandma did you a very great service by showing you how you were brought up and living the way that you did, so you can actually educate, because it does. It's a yin and a yang, right? I mean, and it sounds to me like all you're saying is, I just want respect for because I respect that you guys came in and did what you did. Let's just get it all cleaned up and work together.
Yeah, because I think history sometimes puts people in boxes. Oh, the Indians lived from this time to this time. There's the Indian War. There's this, and tribes. But we're also part of mining.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There were Native American miners. We've gotten people in Hall of Fames, who were Native American and did a lot of this. So our history didn't end when Columbus and all these other people came up. We've just been part of it, and we've had to change. We've had to consciously change, or else we wouldn't exist. And I think that's all of humanity. Well, everybody's constantly had to change, and in the industry itself has had to change, or else it goes away.
Sponsoring this episode of the podcast is Safety First Training and Consulting. Headquartered here in Elko, Nevada, but mobile enough to reach you anywhere throughout the United States. These guys can cover it all, from MSHA approved and new miner training, annual refresher courses for both surface and underground. They can help support with health testing like spirometry, respirator fit tests. They even offer courses like fall protection. So head on over to their website at safetyfirstelco.com. Check them out. Their mission is to help your crew adopt an ownership mindset. Not just do the training, but live the training safely every shift. With top-notch instructors and hands-on classes, Safety First Training and Consulting makes sure you're not just compliant, you're confident. Give these guys a visit at safetyfirstelco.com. But it sounds like you're taking the best of both worlds, both current and tradition, I guess, or current and culture, I don't know how to correctly word that, but and trying to drive the best results. You're not just looking at it from one lens or another now. Now you're collaborating, so to speak, to actually put the best out there, get the best from it.
Yeah. But you also have two very, I don't want to say very different ideals that you're educating yourself on. But conversationally, I kind of want to dive into, how does a conversation look with your tribe, trying to talk to them about talk to them about the mining industry, and then talking to the mines and trying to educate them on?
Yeah, because it's a two-way street for sure.
Yeah, and that's what it is it's education. Because how can, growing up, I had a grandmother who would always say, we have to kind of pity them sometimes because they're just ignorant. And a lot of people don't give that grace. where we go, if someone says something, they just maybe don't know it. Now, if it's malicious and later, it's on. That's a whole different story.
Sure.
But a lot of that is we have to give each other grace because we don't understand. And that's what I've done a lot with our tribes and especially with WestLand and the program, trying to bridge that gap. Where is our shortcomings in the education of it? So like for us, we've done Mining 101 classes. A lot of our clients have paid for Mining 101, bring the tribes in, because they have all the subject matter experts there in the mine.
Yeah.
And they can answer the questions. And so the tribes are really enjoying that because it gives them information and they understand what exploration looks like. They look what mine looks like, what mine plans in the mine, what reclamation looks like.
But it also provides some level of opportunity, or how do I say, if they ever wanted to get into the industry, there is that opportunity as well, right? They can continue doing what they're doing, or there's an opportunity to be a part of it.
Because like Hopi tribe, we've had coal. We had a coal mine, and so when the coal company came in, I doubt we got the best offer, we got the best deal out of it, because they weren't ignorant of what it looks like, what it's going to be. And so now they're a lot more cautious about mining, I think, still, and there's still stigma with the destructions that mines do cost, whether it to be land, but also plants, animals. It's a landscape is what they're always looking at. It's not just physical anthropology or archaeology. It's actual, they're looking at the landscape going, look, animals live here, other things live here. You're not just going to affect us, you're going to affect the world around it. There's
and the way
water,
the way you
there's
live.
springs, there's, so these are all things that they're worried about. And as we know, mines are changing. The way that we mine is a lot better. It has changed, but it's hard to convey that when you still have uranium in your backyard. How can we spout to them, look, we're changing, we're getting better at it, but we still have yet to clean up legacy?
Sure.
There's a respect factor there for sure that hasn't been taken care of to prove that it's going to get better.
Yeah, well, it's a trust thing, right?
Yeah.
When you invite somebody into your house and you trust that they're going to take care of your house, and then they don't, that's where you have some of the issues.
And then they want to come back in?
Yeah. And so for me, that's what my job is. I'm here to bridge that gap and talk about it. And let's be, truthful about what we're talking about. Let's actually discuss the uncomfortable truth that it is. And anytime I talk to clients, I said, you have to embrace the past because that's part of your legacy, which was not all bad.
Yeah.
But you still inherit the bad that comes with it. So how do we move forward? And I think a lot of the tribes who we do work with now are saying, we may not agree with what the mine is doing. We may not agree with mining in general, but we still need to be part of the conversation because we still have our resources out there that are important to us. And as mines go along, you're always going to be on tribal land, regardless of wherever you mine here. So how do we then make sure they're involved in it at the beginning? Like, when a mine moves in, they're going to say, we're going to start drilling, we're going to do these things. They talk to the county, the city, they talk to everybody else, but they always tend to leave out the tribes. And it's like, why isn't that initial conversation there also? Then if you start this conversation here, before there's even a mine, we can go through and mitigate things. We can talk about, there's this resource here. We really want to keep this. Is there a way you can move the pipe over 10 feet?
Let's strategize together.
It's so easy to do before you have a mine plan, before you have your mindset on where you're putting it. That information really is critical because you do that with biologists. You do that with, with everybody gets their say of like, no, this is probably better if we put it over here. Tailings needs to go here. When you add that extra bit of info, it really helps because then at the end, when we're getting to the permitting, when we're getting into the actual mine, the tribes have said, we've already talked about this. We're good,
Yeah, you're streamlining a process just through communication and respect.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, how do you build that trust with tribes? Because you've already been burnt once, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you go back to the tribes and have that conversation, especially knowing there's a little bit of rub there? And
especially to the elders, I would
100%,
imagine.
yeah.
I think what it is just being upfront of like, look, this is what's going to happen. This is what it looks like. The transparency of you just saying, this is what it's going to look like. And then on top of that, do what you say as a mine. Yep. If you're going to say we're going to try to keep as much cultural resource out there, we're going to be involved with you, we want to have a partnership with you, it starts here and you don't do that. And later down here, they're like, what happened to everything you said you were going to do?
Yeah.
That's the trust issue.
Yep.
So I think they're going to be leery of you at the beginning. It's always going to happen.
As it should be.
Yeah, totally. So you need to continue that relationship, and it has to be a constant thing that's life of mine even after.
Well, in your position, though, I mean, your personal credibility is on the line with your tribe. And at the end of the day, if they feel like they can't even trust their own tribe, they're not going to trust anybody that's trying to come in and even work with them at all.
Yeah. So that's even more important from your standpoint.
Yeah, and I think that's what I look at when I'm working with clients. You have to be trustworthy too for me to take you on with what I do, because like you're saying, my name's on the line now. So if we're going to start doing that, I have to remind them we need to keep on it. You need to make sure you follow through with it. And a lot of I think, especially new mines, they are changing their mindset. We're seeing the change, and so the past 8 years of what I've done with this, I tell people, look, laws haven't changed. Nothing's changed on how consultation works. The mines, the tribes haven't changed. They're still the same people. What's changing is the industry. You're seeing people coming in from international specifically, where they have FPIC, which is free prior informed consent, where they're saying you have to do all these things with the local tribes, because they do it in Australia, they do it in Canada, and they said this is part of your duties if we're going to give you money. So it's built into the system. But how do you translate that into America? Because our story is 100% different.
I was just going to ask that. Like, great that we have a blanket program, but it's not specific to every project.
Well, and I think he mentioned at the beginning, every tribe is different. Everybody's got, we want to live this way or stay this way, or, hey, we're maybe, everybody wants to be modern, or however that looks, right?
Oh, no, totally. And each tribe, and that's the part is, my job, we have to work with each tribe, and each tribe is their own little beast of people. They're sovereign for a reason. And so when we're working with them, that's where my job is to listen to them, saying, what do you want? How do you want this done? Because I can have my mindset on, it should be done this way, but I'm not running anything, and I'm not in charge of anything. I'm just an in-between person. So in the end, when people ask me, well, what do you think? I go, why don't we ask the tribe first? Why don't we ask them? How don't we, in your relationship, that's what the purpose is of this relationship, is to ask them those questions. It's going to be harsh. It is. It's hard. It's a hard process. But once you get over that initial and they give you a little bit of trust, that's where you then see it. And if you follow through with your commitments, you follow through with the relationship, and you actually do what you say, you'll get them not on your side, but you won't get them opposing you.
The hard part here, I'm trying to put this together for the audience, is a project like, we'll just say Resolution.
Yeah.
Not only through this process, they've been out there for almost 20 years, right? Or something close to that. So through these communications, you haven't been there the whole time. Mm-hmm. The individuals that are being talked to from the tribe have changed. The people from the mining companies have changed.
Yeah.
The permitting process is so long, and there's so many different loopholes to jump through, that it's almost like you can never come to that full resolution piece to get it figured out, to push the project forward to where it's...
You got too many moving parts to where it actually can become a hindrance to progress, because you and I build a relationship. That's great, but I'm now gone, and you and Dino have to have, and maybe you don't see eye to eye the same way you and I did. That makes it difficult for all parties, for sure.
And that's the hardest part. You do have moving, swapping parts all the time. And so that's where that relationship. So for us specifically, we work with a lot more of the cultural group, because the culture, whoever their like historic preservation officer, their longevity is a long time usually. Mm-hmm. And so versus administration, chairman's, it's like our president, everything else that changes every 4 years.
Yeah.
So you can have a great relationship with one chairman, but in 4 years that can change. So when you have this relationship, you're moving it in like we do to the cultural department, because they're the ones who are the longevity. So every time a new administration comes, we may have to do a little bit of a reset, but we're still constantly giving that information.
Lose that progress.
And along the same thing with the client, they're starting to build teams that this is their whole job, is to do tribal relations. And I think that's important because that changes constantly. So us as a WestLand, we haven't changed, and so sometimes when we're in the meeting, I look around and I go, wow, we're the oldest ones in here who've been here the longest, and we know the history that goes. And I think that's the part, is the communication has to keep going within interdepartmental, within company, but also within the tribe. And that's the headache we get to deal with.
How do you ensure that communication, number one, never gets lost? It stays in its original form, to where somebody's got a resource document to say, hey, these are the things, because we all know ultimately the dollar plays a factor in this, 100%. Whether it's like, hey, wait, I've got a deal that I'm working with on the side. Unfortunately, that's the way it is sometimes. I'm not saying here for sure, but those are all things that you're taking into consideration, because you're protecting the tribe, but you're also wanting to see the project get moved forward together. And so
it's a hard animal to...
Money is the root of all evil, and especially when you have that much invested as a company, whoever's owning that, you know what I mean, to be as patient. But that's the best part about that company too, is they're patient, and they're continuing to bring, I would say, projects on, or have this project from the start, to listen to the people that were there first.
Yeah, and I think the bigger the project, the harder it is.
Sure.
Like not everybody's Resolution Copper Oak Flat.
Yeah.
That's a certain instance of, I think personally, wasn't done correctly to start with, but they learned lessons and moved along and gotten way better at it. And they're the reason why we exist as a department also, because they took a chance, they funded something, they used tribes, they actually listened to the tribes. Tribes sent in monitors that got trained as archaeologists and worked alongside archaeology, biology, and are continuing to do it. We still have about 20 employees that are still hired under WestLand who are tribal, who do this work. And then because of them, and I remember the first time Vicky PC, she's the president now for Resolution Copper, she came and presented here about our program, and just got blasted by the industry, saying, why are you including tribes in this? You're going to open a whole can of worms.
We want to open the can of worms.
We can't put back in it. We can't do all this. And she said, hey, look, this is important. She stood by it. Come 5 years later, this is the best thing we've ever heard. We can't, so like I said, it just took someone to take a chance to do it. I think we were destined to fail. I think a lot of people didn't think tribes would be able to work together. They didn't think we'd get the buy-in for it. Some people thought, oh, they're just humoring them and it's just this. But we took it on as a challenge. I personally took it on as a challenge, going, look, they are watching us. We cannot fail in this. How do we do this? And we didn't know we were doing either, because my degree is, I'm not an archaeologist either. I'm not in mining. I had to, it was just, make it or break it for me, whether we were going to be it. And my boss, Avi Buckles, is one of the main reasons why we survived.
Sponsoring this episode of the podcast, our good friend Jimmy Ewing and Motor Mission Machine and Radiator. When your machine overheats, there's no downtime to waste, especially in mining. That's why Mining Minds recommends Motor Mission Machine and Radiator, your go-to experts in industrial and heavy equipment radiator repair, engine and cylinder head rebuilding, and precision machine shop work. Founded in 1949 and serving the western United States for over 50 years, Motor Mission handles it all. Radiators and coolers from passenger vehicles to massive mining shovels, and full machine shop services like honing, line boring, and crankshaft balancing. They'll pick it up, tear it down, clean it right, and test it on custom stands before it leaves their shop. The bottom line is, when you talking best in class, that's Motor Mission Machine and Radiator. Big or small, they can do them all.
you also got the history, and history is not the right word, but you've got everything behind you from the Native American background that you're going, I want to preserve this. We're not losing this. So there's a sense of pride there for you too, to go, this has got to be right, because these are my people, and this is what I am obligated to do for my history.
Well, and I got to ask this too, because we're not talking just one. You said 300 plus tribes out there. Each one of them are differing. Each one of their councils are different and have different. So how do you bring that together? Because let's say the industry is now going forward in a direction, but now you got 300, I guess, different groups.
And the thing is also add states into that. Each state does things different. Each agency does things different. BLM in Nevada does it different, and there's no standardization on how this works.
How do we get the mining industry to a standard, not necessarily for every tribe, but at least something that we can work off of, that there isn't extra loopholes to hop through?
I think that's what he said earlier. They have one, but it's got to be individualized.
Yeah. And that's the part is, and I hear this from tribes, they're pleading to the mining saying, can you advocate for us also? Because you have the most voice, you have the most money, you have the most influence. And so if you continue to do this, it's going to help us. But we also understand, like me personally, I've had to have my own reconciliation of what I do. Because in some people's minds, I'm sure they're not happy with what I do because I'm here working for mining.
Sure.
But I see the benefit, not financially, but of information. I see the benefit of us being at the table as a tribe, because our voice then gets heard.
Yes.
Yes, there can be benefit from it. And for me, as a consultant, that's out of my realm. I'm not there to work on that. That's the tribe's responsibility with the proponent to decide what they want to do. I have no stake in that. I don't care. But everybody should have that opportunity if that's presented. And so for me, I have to still, because I remember when I first did this, I went back and forth because it's like Resolution Copper. I know it's in the news. I know our tribe is against it. I know all these things. So I went home kind of after working and thinking, well, let's see what my people tell me. Let's see what they say to me. And I talked to a lot of older people, and they said, well, here's the thing. This mine is going to get built whether you're there or not. So we'd rather have you there. We'd rather have you speaking up for us and being there. So, it gave me that confidence to go, okay, maybe this is a purpose I'm supposed to be doing. I'm glad I'm there then. Even though I may have my own personal feelings against it, I still have a job to do. So let me go do that. And so I think that's what you're going to get a lot of for tribes is there is economic benefits, 100% working within this. We understand that. That's why we're in this industry. So a lot of tribes, there are some who are for this, saying, let's go ahead and get our benefit while we're here. Let's ask for things. Let's get a share of the cut if we can. And then there's other tribes saying, we're just totally against it. We don't even want to participate. And I think that's their prerogative, and it's great because they're a sovereign nation. They can decide how they want to proceed. But I think they miss out in the sense of information that everybody gets, even though they still get the same information. So like us, we have 11 consulting tribes on the Resolution Project. Everybody hears about San Carlos. They're the ones who are against everything. They don't show up to meetings. We send out all the information. They get everything every other tribe gets, but they're not there to speak. And I think that hinders them sometimes. I mean,
if you're not coming to the table, and you won't have a voice.
Like, be against it. That's great, but still show up. And I think that's where, for me personally, I go, they're missing out on this whole process. I mean, and you think in the ways of like, what better way? Have your own mole inside the company, and then you get the information real time, what's happening out there.
But unfortunately, the way the Western world works now is people feel like you can be compromised by money.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? And so
you can be, and we know 100% you totally can be.
But I see your necklace that you have, and this is, I want to ask this question. with the most respect. When you take these conversations back to the elders at the tribe and you're at a place that has no electricity, like, are you sitting down with the elders and having these discussions primitively to where you're feeling the energies of the elders and getting the message that you're supposed to be getting?
Yeah, both verbally and from an energy level.
I think so. Like I especially for Hopi, they're very big picture all the time. So they have you're in one location for 1,000 years. You have a lot of knowledge. You know how the world works. You understand, and they do understand science. And I always tell people this. I remember someone said to me, "Wow, that's interesting. You have a degree in biology and you're native, and that you don't see a lot of that." And I said, "My grandmother was a botanist. She knew all the plants. She knew when they grew. She knew the seasons of them. She knew the uses for them. She knew what they were. She just didn't know the scientific name." So we understand science. We understand how orbits work. We know it. We just have it in different terms.
Sure.
So it's not that we don't understand what they're talking about. We just have a bigger understanding of what's going on here. So we do have opposition. I do get yelled at too. That's the other part. I do get scolded. But in those scoldings, I know there's teachings also. Yeah. So you have to kind of understand that this job that I'm doing is not for the weak-hearted,
Sure.
Well, there's a different level of value too, though, because the elders, there's no value to them as far as what that copper in the ground is going to do, but because they've lived this way forever, right? So
not that there's not no value, but they don't see what
it has never done anything for them in the past.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? To where the value of the dollar, what it means to the company that's mining it, the value, there's so much value to the company. But from the tribe's perspective, or some of them, I would imagine they're going, this has been there for millions of years. Like, we've never had to use it because we're resourceful. But now somebody's coming in and quantifying that.
Well, I guess that's the other thing I was going to ask on your messaging, because I'm be interesting. I look at the United States and I go, man, if we have these resources here to strengthen our country, to build this nation into a great nation, is there any pride that people see in that in the tribes, like looking at how their communities are building the backbones of America again?
I think they would if we saw benefit from it. But in the past, we've never gotten any benefit from this.
And that makes sense.
We've been excluded for so long, and we've had, our own instances of what history has done to us.
Sure.
And we still continue to have that happening to us. So there is pride in a lot of ways, especially with America, like military, things like that. We have, I think percentage-wise, we're the highest percentage of people who join the military, who do all this. I have all my relatives, my brother, retired from the Air Force. So we do have pride in America in a lot of ways of that. But I think for metal, we've never done anything with it.
Never valued it the same for your point.
I'll tell you, I've got a lady that has been my friend. She's a Pechanga Indian out of Temecula, and they put a casino on the reservation. And for a long time, the tribe would pay out all of the members. And at some point, though, the tribe came in and they did a lot of blood work on the tribe, and they really figured out what percentage everybody was. And they said, hey, basically, you fell underneath the threshold, so you're not getting any more subsidy from the casino. They went from making $400,000 a year to zero, like that.
Huh.
And to where I'm sure you've got to look at that too.
Yeah.
Where if you're getting subsidized, or there's some level of payment to the tribe for being able to do this, it's like, at what point do you keep the tribe together to say, hey, it doesn't matter. Like, people are going to be with the person that they're going to be with, whether they're inside the tribe or they're not, to where bloodlines change over time, and to where sooner or later the bloodlines dissipate, and you've got a handful of people that might be making money, but that doesn't go on forever either. Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Is that true, though? Because I know you guys try to keep your bloodlines pretty consistent, no?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally there's always, speaking only for Hopi, because I can't speak for
fair
anybody
enough.
else. But for Hopi ourselves, we've always been told that we need to stay within our tribe because we have clans. Our clans are based on our journeys when we moved, our migrations into the current place that we're at. When we came here, they sent people different directions. They said, go and find what it looks like. Come back with something that's going to benefit the tribe. So each clan has their own path that they got back to get to the to where we consider kind of the center of the earth. Because Hopi, we say, is where our world lives. And so each clan were sent different ways. We're a matrilineal society, so our clans go through our mothers. And when you lose that, and so say like me, if I married someone non-Hopi, I lose the clan.
Oh.
Because I can't pass on the clan. I am not female. And so that's where I think a lot of our push is more culturally, because they're saying these clans have responsibilities within our society. And if you are not part of that clan, you lose your responsibility. And then also, like, for our membership for a long time, your mom had to be Hopi. Even if your dad was Hopi, they wouldn't consider you Hopi. Socially, they still do that. We still have that issue where...
Wow.
Because we're saying you need this clan to exist within our life, and if you don't have it, it's difficult, So and we have kids and grandkids who this is starting to happen, and it's something that's affecting us. And so personally, we kind of believe ideologically that yes, you need to live this way, you need to do this, but when it's in real life, you go, but they're still part of the people, So.
Yeah.
Man, it's almost like
we've been lucky, Hopi, because we've been so we're insulated because of the Navajo. They they put the reservation around us, and so we're the only tribe that's landlocked by another tribe. And because of that, I think we got insulated, which is really nice. So that's why we still have our language, we still have our culture, we still have these traditions. That a lot of other tribes might have lost because of movement or close to cities, things like that. And I think that's where our push is for Hopi is like, look, we're not going to exist someday. That was, within our own prophecies of what we said is we won't exist. And if we don't speak our language, we don't do this, you lose all that. Then you're just like everybody else.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think there is that fine line of progress with money, with casinos, with mining, and then also keeping what we have and what we've learned, what we've survived on for thousands of years.
Yeah, tradition.
How do we keep that balance? Because we have to walk both lines. I have to make money because that's just life now.
Yeah, well, you live in modern society.
How do I do both? How does that work? How can we marry that? And that's our journey that we do all the time.
And responsibly.
You're putting yourself as a test subject to show that it can be done.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard.
But I mean, my grandparents had to do it.
Yeah.
They all went to boarding schools. They got sent away. Like my grandmother, she just got given a name. And when she went home, they said, this is my name. And my great-grandmother was like, why are they naming you? You already have a name. There was just a list. She said, we stood in a line and there was a list and they named us off.
Sponsoring this episode of the podcast, JSR Fleet Performance, supporting the people who keep mining moving. If you're a part of a training group or managing equipment operator development, you know it's not just about running gear, it's about running it right. JSR Fleet Performance works alongside training teams to extend the life of your fleet, reduce costly breakdowns, and make sure your operators understand how to get the most out of every machine. With customized training support, maintenance insights, and real-world in-field education, JSR helps surface operations boost reliability, safety, and productivity from the pit to the shop. So whether you're building the next generation of mining professionals, looking to audit what you currently have going on, or looking to help develop your workforce, brass in at Mining Minds LLC and bring JSR Fleet Performance into your corner. As you start to go down this history, you've got to start building trust. And what keeps me, I guess, going back to this is Mining Minnesota or the Minnesota Range is doing a lot of good things on the reclamation side. Like they're starting with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And that sounds like exactly all that you guys are asking. Like you got a bigger picture. You guys understand where your outcome might lie. Start with us in mind to know that, hey, we're going to be taken care of or things are going to be okay.
And prove to us that our resources that we utilize every day aren't going to be
that build America.
Aren't going to be the resources that they have within their reservation, the water, the air, everything involved isn't going to be harmed to where you can continue to live the way that you live because you've chosen this, and we respect that.
Yeah.
Just prove it to me.
And I think that's why there was the downfall of the coal. But I mean, then the not need for it. Change that also. But why the opposition for coal? They weren't mad about the extraction. They were mad about the use of water. Because we live in a desert.
Yeah.
Whereas, and it's not like they used reclaimed water. They used pure aquifer water. And we're saying, how do we live if we lose that?
You don't.
So how do we do this correctly?
Yeah.
And that's where I think with tribes, when you do meet finally, that's their worry.
Yeah.
They're saying, look, you're building this mountain out in the middle of the desert. Where are you getting the water to do this?
Well, to put it in perspective for anybody else out there listening, if your water ran out in your house and somebody down the road's taking all the fresh water, you're going to ask the same question. Yeah. Where the hell's my water at? What's going on?
Yeah, you're going to have a fight on your hands.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's not just tribes asking that.
Right.
Community, anything around it is saying, look, you're going to say there's money benefit, but we're losing something because of it. And that's why I always had a grandmother who said, nothing comes for free. There's always a trade-off.
Yep.
They say, like I remember they came and they told my grandmother and them that they were going to put running water in the village. And our clan is kind of the caretakers of our village. So they came to my grandmother and all the brothers and sisters to present this, saying they had a grant for this, that they were going to build this. And they presented, and then by then I was old enough to sit in. Like I wasn't a kid. I was so excited because I'm not even close to an elder. But they had this discussion, and what blew my mind was listening to these people who aren't college educated at all by any chance, but they have this traditional knowledge where they said their points were, look, we live on rock, like we said. So you disturb that, that's bad because our village will move and we don't have the ability to stop that. Second, once you dig something, once you put a line in, right away happens and you lose that. We all know that, right? You put a line in, then they have the right to do whatever they want within that area. So we lose that. Second, then the next one, she says, what happens when they can't pay their bill? We turn off their water. So then we're back to square one again. Why have them have to pay for something that's free right now?
100%.
And then I think the last one, what did she say? Oh, when this grant runs out, who maintains all this? Who's in charge after the money's gone?
Yeah, for better or worse words.
It falls on us.
Yeah, they're going to shit all over us and leave again.
Yeah, and so she said, she told me, and she looked at us specifically, says, as long as I'm alive, we're not doing this. I don't care what you guys do after I'm gone, but this is why, these are the reasons why I'm going to say no. It was a whole process, and it was, to me, like as a kid, just going, they're so smart. I'm so dumb.
Well, they're looking at it from a longer view.
Yeah.
Dude, just, on another level.
Well, no, what I'll say is what a cool position for you to be in then, but also now, because you get to understand where people were coming from, their concerns then, and now you get to bring that to the forefront and say, no, these are things that need to be addressed before we even talk about moving forward.
That gave you the experience to be able to have the voice for the tribe just in that one setting to go, that was heavy. This is into my soul at this point.
And it's just not me. It's I'm talking for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, I'm like, when I talk about this work, if I'm sitting on a panel, this is what I learned from the tribes. They're the ones who are the smart ones. I'm just the
messenger.
I'm the ventriloquist puppet over here. I'm just giving out the message. Yeah. They're the ones who constantly are telling me, make sure this is said, make sure this is, because they tell me you have a voice.
Yeah.
They listen to you sometimes. So
And
I'm always saying, go back to the tribe. They're the ones you need to listen to. They're the ones with all the knowledge. I don't know anything. I can't speak for them. I can't speak for, even my tribe, because I can speak for part of my clan if I'm lucky, but I'm still, in the eyes of Hopi, a child yet still.
Sure.
I'm not an elder. I don't have that. I just feel like I'm not capable of knowing that much right now.
Does the tribe put value on education from the Western world? Like, do they value a degree like we do?
I personally, I think Hopi is a lot more progressive in that way, where we had issues when the first boarding schools came. There were some clans, families, villages that said we need to learn what they're talking about because this is going to affect us later.
Need to be able to fire with fire. Yeah.
And there was some other tribes that say, no, this is important, our language, our culture, our this. So they fought against schooling. But as it goes along, I'm seeing that there is a place for it. But as my dad always tells people, because he was an educator, he went to Penn State. He was, he had his master's. He's that person. But he says, when you go away to school and you come home, that piece of paper means nothing.
Yeah.
It depends on how you use it. You come back and you want to help your people, help them. Don't come back with an attitude of, as he says, being an educated Indian.
Utilize it to better us.
Use it to help us. And that's where I think my mindset is, I'm here to help as best as I can. Am I right or wrong in a lot of situations? I don't know. We'll see as it goes along. But for me, it's important enough for me to say, I need to advocate. I need to be the one speaking up about it, because if not, nobody else is going to do it. I mean, just the truth of the matter is, in a lot of these meetings and a lot of these conferences, I'm the lone brown person in the room. Me
too sometimes, dude. Me too.
Yeah, but I'm the lone person, so they look to me to answer questions. They look to me to do things. So I try to be as knowledgeable about it, and I don't like the word subject matter expert because I don't feel like I know a lot. But I guess as time's going on, I'm just understanding situations. I'm getting better at it, and I'm learning. But nobody knows anything.
You're getting put in positions with the elders, though, to get so much knowledge from them that you're going to be making those decisions as an elder one day, to where you're going to be the man running
or having influence.
Yes,
for sure.
And it's forced me to be better at my language, to be better at asking questions, to be better at working, because I grew up with my grandparents all the time, and so I've never had an issue with older people, but that can also be intimidating. We all know that. You meet somebody who's an elder to you, who's worked in this industry for 30 something years. There's an institution of knowledge that they've gained just by experience alone. And so for me, I go, we still are lucky as Hopis to have that resource. I still have uncles, I still have grandparents who know all this stuff, and I need to make sure I'm utilizing it, because time is really short and it goes really quick, and we all know that. And I think that's where, big picture for me, for what I do, using traditional ecological knowledge with our monitors is a big deal. And I think the minds themselves are seeing the benefit. They're understanding that this relationship with tribes really is important. And tribes have been asking for it. It's not like they don't want it. They've been saying, why have you not talked to us over here? You always talk to us here, but by then decisions are already made. Yeah. We're just a box check. Yep. So my job is to make sure we're not a box check.
Yeah, just be on the front end, which is that's not too much to ask.
And it's not
let us help you.
And it's not mind blowing anything. No. It's not anything new either.
No.
Like a monitor program is not new. Tribes have been doing it for years. Canada's been doing it. Australia's been doing it. Everybody else has. But the only difference with mine is I'm using a lot of tribes together to work together. And that's what's kind of new for what I've done. for what we've
awesome
done. I guess
story.
I should
So
say.
if there's pockets of good out there in the mining community that maybe companies are doing it right, what does that look like? And I think you've explained some of it, but I'm going, man, there's got to be people out there doing the right things in the right
Sounds
ways.
like the pocket of good is getting them involved from the start.
Yeah,
That's
and
the first
I
thing.
think what it is we need to showcase all this.
Oh, yeah.
because it is happening, and Thursday, and you know, people won't listen to this probably till later, but tomorrow we have a panel, and that's what we're actually going to do is showcase the first benefit, I think, impact agreement they did in the United States with Integra Resources, working with one of the tribes. They were actually made an agreement. So I've always said this because I'm the new co-chair for AEMA's Native American Committee, and I'm saying, can we showcase a lot of this stuff? And I know like someone like Rio Tinto, who we do work with, they have a lot of success in Canada. Can you bring that down and show that to our tribes also?
100%.
Because that's the only way we're going to do it. Is all we hear is negative in the media all the time. And that has nothing to do with just mining. That's just in general.
Yeah.
That's what sells.
Yep.
But we need to hear the good stuff that's happening in the world too, to see. And I think that's why, like, I have tribes here with me today. They want to come because they want to see what's happening. They want to be able to go home and report back of like, look, this is the way mining's going, and I think a lot of tribes are interested in it, but we just haven't.
And my mind is,
that.
I put myself in this conversation, I put myself back 200 years, because 200 years ago, you were having the same conversations, right? And it maybe not around the mining side of things, but when this world started becoming westernized, I mean, the same thing, the tribes were validating and seeing what was really going on. You're just doing that in the modern day society.
Yeah.
Well, you're really progressing or pushing. Our slogan is the voice inside the industry, right? You're the voice for the tribes. That's what you're working towards and hoping to become, not for any other reason than to
Preserve your culture.
Yeah, preserve's a great word.
Yeah, but also just if there is any kind of benefits, they deserve to be part of the conversation
100%.
also.
But you know what's crazy is, I guess if you think about it, a lot of the people in the Western world don't have true blood. We're a mix, right? And so there's not that level of pride in what we did 50 years ago.
Sure. Or 1,000 plus years ago, right?
Yeah, our traditions don't run deep. And not only being resourceful from the earth and not disturbing anything, like, we don't understand that holistically because we've never been educated on it.
But we do. I mean, we're only a few generations in, really, when you think about America.
Yeah.
So when you look and talk to your parents, your grandparents, they have a full story of where they came from.
Oh, yeah.
They had a language. They had all this stuff, the same exact thing. And so everybody has that. It's not that we don't. You guys, we categorize people American now, but when you really look at it, people are Irish. People came from England. People came from all different places. We just kind of, as a society, kind of forgot that and demonized it a little bit more recently than not.
Sure.
And so I always talk about, ecological knowledge. Everybody has it. We've all been passed down with information from our families. Maybe, like you said, we just haven't delved into it as much or have the same, but there's still St. Patrick's Day parades where people are proud
I
to
guess
say,
where I was going
I
with
am
it is,
Irish,
where I was going with it is even down to having the conversations of keeping the bloodlines true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess we fell off years and years and years ago to where you guys are still keeping that going.
Trying to keep that tradition alive. And I want to ask this question too, because you mentioned there might not be a tribe that's interested, or they have a seat at the table and they don't want to show up to be that voice. How do you get them involved? I mean,
I think, it's just constant pursuit for me. Keep working with them. Keep making sure you're doing the information. But as a tribe, they have a right to do that.
Sure.
That is 100% their right, and I'm never against that. And like we talk, I always hear NGOs being demonized within this industry because they do slow a lot of things down. But what I say about them is they exist for a reason. They make us do our job better. It forces us to be better at what we do and to make sure we are doing it correctly because they're watchdogging us all the time. I would prefer to have that than just be unsupervised.
Well,
I will say the old theory that you'd said earlier, though, ultimately as human beings, that's what we want too. We don't want to come in and disturb everything and make it inhabitable for everybody. You know what I mean?
No, this is, and it might be controversy, so apologize. But
That's fine.
From the NGO perspective, what I understand and know, and not every one of them, right? What I don't like that I've seen is that it becomes a money grab game for people to constantly fight something that they don't even know why they're fighting, other than that they have a job. Now, in your case and what you're talking about, to me, that's where I'm like, yeah, we need to have the conversation. We need to support this, but I want to separate those boxes a little bit.
Oh yeah,
because
no,
they're
100%.
But that's why you said every tribe is different, or every situation's different.
You know, because there's situations where I know, like when the Hopis were fighting against Snow Bowl, you know, they were trying to make snow up in one of our sacred peaks that we have cultural affiliation shrines, things up there. And what we were telling them, because they were trying to make snow, and we're saying, you know, that's a basic principle of our world that we truly believe in, that we work with nature. And so you're building something so artificial, we're against it, you know?
Yeah,
100%.
And so when it came time to it, you know, all these NGOs showed up and we're going to fight with you and all this stuff. And at the last end, it was Hopi standing alone. So I'm with you on times where I'm like, are you really here to help us?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or are you here just because of money?
And that's where
you know, but that's all industry. That's
You're
all
right.
everything. Everybody.
right.
That's what we talked about. Root of all evil.
Yeah.
It's what corrupts the world is once money comes in, and like you talked about with Pachanga, once money came in, they were making money, and now they're like, oh well,
They sold themselves out.
no, but also within the tribe saying, oh well, you're not full 100, so you shouldn't get the same amount that I get.
Yeah.
You know, and
I just wanted to make that separation because
totally.
what you guys are doing, from what you've told me and what I understand, are good things for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Not everybody's out there doing that, and so continue to push the good things, and let's weed out some of these other.
Yeah, but I think, but also that also comes to play too. You know, like I'm sure we get the same stigma. Oh, they're just in it for the money. Oh, they're just, you know.
I think everybody.
I'm sure
you're
we're
right.
all gonna get. You know, they could probably throw us down too.
But talking to you, you can tell your sincerity, you can tell your passion. So I guess from my perspective, I'm going, no, this is a real dude, not a bullshitter. My bullshit meter's pretty good. So.
My question is,
I'm just good at it. Apparently,
Maybe.
Yeah, I even fooled you.
my question would be, as we get close to wrapping this up, if you were offered a higher level position and were pulled away from this project, even though it would benefit you financially to take the higher level, would you do it?
Probably not right now. Like I've been poor before. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Financially, I'm okay. Who needs billions of dollars? I mean, you know, it creates more
Headache, yeah.
more money, more problems.
Yeah,
What is the thing they
yeah.
say? So to me, I think I can do more good in the position I'm in right now.
Yeah.
I have a little bit better of a voice because I don't represent somebody, you know. And once you, who I think have some of the hardest jobs in this industry are the tribal liaisons for large mines, because you have to play the politics that live within mining.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And as a tribal person, because you're going to just be labeled as a sellout,
Sure.
Yep.
you know, and that's just the reality of what it is. So those people who do that work is hard. And you have to realize what you get yourself into by doing it. It shouldn't be that way. And I think they need more support as far as from the mining industry to understand, look, this is a hard position for them to take, so they should be supported in whatever they're doing. But me personally, I think I can do more damage this way by being a consultant, by being
Agnostic.
as kind of almost like a outsider, because I'm not from mining.
Yeah.
I am not an archaeologist. So I always feel like, I've been an outsider the whole time, and I'm okay with that. And I think it's refreshing because we do need outside ideas from other industries.
I was just going to say
because I think we've been so mindset and so focused, and yes, it's great, and that information, institutional information, is really good, but a new perspective is always needed, and I think that's when you move forward. And that's where I'm also trying to go, open your mind up, be better. Don't just make assumptions. Don't get bogged down in that world, that you do need to kind of think outside the box, and how can we change things, and how, like you're saying, how can we continue to do this? I mean, and it's not difficult. This is one of the harder jobs I've ever done,
Well, the cool part is you get to look at this situation specific from an unbiased lens. You know what I mean? But that is what your company, like you're a true fit for that, because you're not from mining.
Yeah.
But you're representing your people, and you're not 100% biased anywhere. You're just asking to be involved.
Yeah.
And really the liaison for improvement on either end, or I should say a liaison for understanding as well, because you got it to improve. You have to understand where your start points
And
are.
also, I understand like the change that mining is doing is great. They are changing as an industry. They are getting better at what they do. And the funny part is, because they'll do mining 101s with the tribes, and one mine will do it, because we all know how you mine is based on where the deposit is.
Yep.
So sometimes they'll go to another mine and say, well, this mine's doing it this way. Why can't you do it that way? They're doing block K, but they're I love listening to them, because the executives' eyes get big, and they're like, wow, you know a lot about things. And I go,
that's good.
That's what information does.
Yes.
That's what education does. Now they can ask the right questions now
and make an educated decision.
And I think in general, for all of us, education would be important. It would be good for the mines also to understand why this is something you're having to deal with. Why are the tribes saying that they do? And it doesn't. And I think a lot of mines, when we finally get them out to the reservation to go visit the tribes, it opens their mind to say, now we get where they're coming from, why they're asking these questions, why they're doing it. It humanizes everybody.
Sure.
And I think,
man, it brings it back to the root,
and
dude.
I think that's what we need to do as in society, is just humanize itself again. So I'm not trying to be revolutionary. I'm just trying to do what I can to help in the way.
You know what's cool though, man, is you're humble in that respect. But for me to sit here and listen to you, like, you've got such an amazing opportunity that you don't take either side for granted, and you were truly just building an amazing future for yourself and for the mining industry, because you're doing the right things for the right reasons.
Well, and the tribes, right? And that's
100%.
what I'm saying. Like, your intent is spot on, and I think that's something to be. I'm grateful that we got to sit down with you, because
absolutely,
this is a refreshing conversation, because you don't always hear both sides of it, or you don't always hear everything that needs to be talked about.
And the thing is, like, I'm not doing this. It's the tribes that's doing it.
Sure.
They're the push. They're the reason. Because if I push, nobody's going to listen. They don't care. But when the tribes themselves, they're the ones showing up, being at the table, and truly working with them, that's the relationship that I do. That's my job, is to make sure that connection happens. But also the program that I do run with the tribal monitors, they're the ones who are day in, day out doing this work. I just get to sit here and talk on a podcast. They're out there actually doing the real work.
Sure.
So this is not me doing this.
Yeah.
There's a whole group of people who are making this successful. I just get to be the talking eagle over here, in these things. So
I got an idea, and this be my last question. So we venture into Arizona to come down and visit with people in the mining industry down there. What's your thought about being able to maybe come out your way and maybe talk to some of the people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just have a honest conversation about life.
Yeah.
I think it would be good. What I would like to see is all the tribes that we're working with be on something like this.
Yeah.
They would have the best perspective. They're the ones, those are the ones who I think would be really interested in talking to.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we go to Arizona to where if there's, well, maybe we can get a card and we can follow up and
Yeah, no, totally.
and just see if we can put something together. I just think it would be cool conversation.
Well, it's full circle here because for me, this was a learning experience or an education for myself and something that I enjoyed diving into. So thank you for sharing that first and foremost. Secondly, if people wanted to get a hold of you, if they wanted to reach out and say, hey, because what's fascinating for me is that you're doing Mining 101, but I think, and I know you're focusing on the tribes, but I think that's beneficial probably in more areas than just tribes, right?
Oh yeah, no, totally. I think communities should know all this. I think the more education mining can do for the general public, the better we're going to be at it.
That was probably the most interesting thing to me through this conversation is you guys hit the nail on the head is the tribes are at the front end of all of this, and essentially what you're protecting for that resonates into all of society. It truly does. You're just on the front end of it, and we're not seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, how do they get a hold of you? Sorry.
You can email me.
Okay.
I'm sure I can get you the information right.
We can post it on our stuff.
Post it on it so they can get a hold of me. It's just my first initial last name.
Okay.
At westlandresources.com.
Very cool.
LeRoy, thank you very much for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Join the conversation. All right, guys, check us out, miningmindsllc.com, Facebook, Instagram. Adios.
Peace.
That'll do it for this episode of the podcast, guys. Thank you for listening in. Thank you to LeRoy and the American Exploration and Mining Association. What a cool podcast. I learned a ton on this one, and it wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have been at the annual meeting for AEMA. So if you guys are interested in this organization or checking it out, maybe hitting it when it comes up again, you guys can go check them out at miningamerica.org. So let's jump into it. Right out of the gate, what I'll say is one of the best podcasts for me just because it was highly educational, highly informational. LeRoy was a good person to sit down with, chat with. I hope we get to catch up with him again. But the first real takeaway for me is really working with the two sides of the spectrum. You have the traditional knowledge of his tribes, and of Native people. And then you have that Western knowledge like geology. And then to get both of those perspectives, which to me that was huge, is he's understanding these things. He's understanding from side A and side B. And in my opinion, getting these guys to the table to at least have some conversation. If there's anything I will say is we need more of that. We need more people involved, educating and really making an impact. Secondly, and a big takeaway for me was just on that time, the time that it takes to build relationships and trust. So when groups are constantly switching or management's constantly switching, it creates these gaps in trust and in this relationship building process. So I thought, what would that look like to assign somebody that's going to have some longevity, that's going to be in that role for an extended period of time to help these tribes and these clans and groups like LeRoy build those relationships and trust and move the process maybe further along, or at least start communicating and understanding one another. And then with that, I also thought about what that looks like on our mine sites currently, at least here in Northern Nevada. You have a lot of managers that switch around often. And I will say, I understand that there's business needs. People are developing. But if I was at a site for 4 years, I saw 5 different managers for varying reasons. And it's got me thinking, what does it look like if those guys hung around for a little bit? How much trust, or what do those relationships look like when you do have a longer term investment? And I understand you can't hold on to somebody forever. But this podcast just kind of reminded me of that, is these important things like relationship building and trust do take time. And as an industry, are we giving it enough time to actually build? Share your thoughts, guys. Like I said, this is just me kind of spitballing, but I wanted to throw it out and get your guys' 2 cents, get your guys' opinion. But I do think it was a cool conversation that we had. And then lastly, LeRoy's perspective. LeRoy, you guys heard the podcast, man, but he's no different off the podcast than he was on the podcast. Just salt of the earth kind of individual. But when he was talking about his Mining 101 class, I thought that was huge. He's talking about taking mining, whatever type of mining you're doing, and doing local education for the tribes. But I'd be super interested to help support those options and opportunities for the general public. I think as a society, more people need to know about mining. And I think what he's done, a lot of us talk about doing it, he's actually went out and helped develop this Mining 101 class and has got it off the ground. And it sounds like it's benefiting his groups, other groups. So I thought that was really cool. And that would be my challenge for the industry is how are you helping educate? What's your Mining 101? Doesn't necessarily have to be a classroom setting, but are you having conversations while you're on the plane heading to your next event? All good takeaways, all good things. You guys, please feel free to give us some of your feedback. We'll take it, the good, the bad, the ugly. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you, LeRoy. AEMA, thank you. I want to give a shout out again to PC Reps here in Elko, helping me through my computer problems in December and January. If you guys are needing some support up in this Northern Nevada area, they do diagnostics for free. They are not a paid sponsor. Just really appreciate good people jumping in and helping. And with that being said, if you guys are out there pounding roads, driving drifts, or pushing throughput, stay safe.
Yeah. This one's for the crews underground. For the haul truck drivers, the welders, the crushers. For the ones who make the world turn while nobody's looking. Mine and mine. Let's dig in. Yeah. From the pit to the plant where the iron sparks fly, we talk grit, talk grind under that big sky. Dino and Grover got the mic turned high, breaking down stories money just can't buy. From the driller to the tech with the night shift eyes, we shine that light where the truth resides. Talk safety, talk struggle, talk pride inside. Man, it's the heartbeat where the people thrive. For Mining Minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. For Mining Minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element is the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Yeah, copper, gold, silver, coal, you name it. We break down the process, the blood that sustain it. Presumption flow, the culture, the cause. The ones who made it happen, never counting the loss. We the Joe Rogan of the rock and the dust. Talking tough love, respect, and trust. From the whole road climbs to the mill line hum. We bring the stories where the real ones come. Mining Minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element, it's the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. Mining Minds, we dig a little deeper. Stories from the soul, not a corporate speaker. Human element, it's the real truth seeker. Every week we rise, podcast speaker. This ain't no suit and tie talk. Nah, this the grease-stained boots on ground law. From hard times to the times they thrive. Mining Minds keep the culture alive. We salute the companies that back their crew, the ones that care and the ones that grew. From Nevada to Peru to the odds and minds. We link that world with the honest lines. Dino and Grover, yeah, they speak that truth. In a room full of miners, they the voice of proof. Plug in, tune up, and follow the signs. It's the sound of the industry. Mining Minds. Mining Minds. We dig a little